Yeah, welcome to the yard, it's that Birdland sound. PigTownSports, yeah, we holding it down. Bleeding orange, dripping purple, that's the code we claim. Crab cake, hustle, Old Bay in the veins. From Camden Yards to the air, we all the same. That beat more fire running deep in our veins. From the block to the booth, yeah, we bringing that flame. PigTownSports, steady carving the game. Talking stats and facts, we don't cap, we react. Breaking plays, dropping gems, keep it all exact. Ravens on the rise, O's back in their zone. We the next up, Baltimore zone. Yeah, microphone heat when we speak that truth. It's PigTownSports, yeah, we speak for the youth. Yeah.
Grab a crab cake plate, pour that natty bowl. When the mics turn on, man, you already know we the best up and coming Orioles podcast today. Spitting stats and facts with that Obey flame. From the block to the booth, we don't play no games. PigTownSports, remember the name. Woo!
Birdland, what's going on, everybody? So we got a special guest here tonight, and it's an Orioles enthusiast and a fantasy baseball guru here for all you fantasy junkies out here. So I'm joined here tonight by Mike Virginia. If you guys don't know him, definitely follow him on the Twitter webs. But Mike, how's it going tonight, man?
Good, man. I appreciate you having me, and love talking anything baseball, but more specifically the O's and fantasy baseball at that. So really appreciate you having me on. I'm pumped.
Definitely. So look, there's a hot topic around Baltimore right now. What is your gut feeling when this whole starting pitching situation?
Man, I got to tell you, I'm happy with the moves that we've made thus far. Shane Baz, Zach Eflin, I think those are good mid to bottom of the rotation, but I still think we need a little bit more punch. I'm very big on Bradish, and if he can stay healthy, I think he's a guy who can slot at 1 or 2, and I know a lot of people are probably not high on him because of him throwing at his catcher last year, but I would love to get Framber Valdez, man. I know a lot of people are buzzing and the media is buzzing that, we're one of the top suitors to get him, but I think it would vault us to the top of that division for sure. If we can get a guy like Framber Valdez, and then behind him getting, Shane Baz and Kyle Bradish, and you got Kramer and you got Eflin, and we can get some other guys in there too for spot starts. So I think that's the missing piece. I have no doubt that we can hit the ball. I think starting pitching is going to be something that we'll continue to work on. So
I asked this question earlier today on Twitter. If the season started today, and obviously this goes into fantasy aspects of it too, who would be your number 3 behind Kyle? Well, for me, I had Kyle Bradish and Trevor Rogers slated as number 1 and 2. But who would be your number 3 out of Kramer, Eflin, and Baz?
I totally forgot about Trevor Rogers, and I just drafted him in our Palazzo podcast invitational on fantasy baseball too. So I totally forgot about him. So that even gives us an extra bump there. But if we didn't sign anybody else, and we go with Bradish and Rogers as 1 and 2, I'd probably slot Baz as the number 3. I think he's got elite stuff. He's just having trouble with locating, but good strikeout guy. I think he's a perfect SP3, SP4. I don't think anybody in that rotation currently would slot over him, but interested to hear what your thoughts are.
I just said with just to start the season, I feel like Baz has the highest ceiling of almost anybody in that rotation except for Kyle Bradish, but letting him come into it like a new team with a new pitching coach, and obviously they're probably going to try and tweak some things. I thought about probably going with Eflin just because what he can be if he's healthy, obviously. Health is a big thing with him, but if he's healthy enough to start the season, I would start him at 3 just to kind of, because you already know who he is. He already knows who you are. He's pretty comfortable. He's a veteran. He's not going to go out there and overthink anything and try too hard for the fans or anything. And you can kind of get that better matchup early in the season with Shane Baz against another team's 4, which I think really kind of sets up nicely. Just, not even for the Orioles, but in a fantasy aspect too, because you start to get into some of these lower tier pitchers. And then, but I mean, obviously having the highest ceiling out of everybody else except for Bradish, I feel like he could end the season in a more prominent role. I just wouldn't start him there right away. Just build his confidence up a little bit. I mean, last year, I'm sure that confidence was high, getting a fully healthy season again, but playing in a sandbox probably just diminished any confidence he probably could have built.
Yeah, good point. Playing down there in Tropicana, or the new Tropicana, I will say, that probably, and in that humid air too, probably not good for him. So That's actually a fair point. I like what you said about slotting him against somebody else's four. People forget. I mean, he was a highly touted prospect coming up with Tampa, and he's had some injuries. He's got strikeout stuff. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about him as a potential SP2 as well. And I'm going to go out and say this. I know we have his StatCast page up on the screen here, a little bit skewed, but you can see pretty good K percentage there. The fastball velo is great. Good ground ball pitcher, which is what you want to see. Like I said, in terms of just locating, you look at his walk percentage and his barrel percentage, not good, right? So it's something that he'll definitely have to work on. But I think playing in Camden Yards will help that to a certain extent. And being on a better team, I would say. Nothing against Tampa. I think they finished ahead of us last year, but this year we're gonna be there. So, like I said, and that's a good point too. I like Eflin. I like the move with him as well. I think you're splitting hairs with either one of these guys being SP3, SP4, right? But it's a fair point in what you said in terms of getting Boz's confidence back up. In terms of, hey, we know you're the guy. We know you got the stuff. Maybe build his confidence up early going.
What was your initial thought of that trade when you seen the package that went back for him?
I'm going to be honest. When I first saw it, I said to myself, man, I'm not a huge fan of it because I liked Bodine as well. Mm-hmm. But I said this, I made a tweet about this as well. We had so many catchers between, Rushman and Basayo and Bodine and Irish, which I know he's probably not going to, catch a whole lot, probably be more in the outfield, but
Cree Willems too.
Yeah. And, but at the end of the day, and people made this argument on Orioles Twitter too a bunch last year, is that we're hoarding all these prospects and we don't do anything with them. And I know Elias got some crap for the Trevor Rogers deal for the Norby and Stowers, but which still hurts me a little bit. I love both of those guys. But yeah, and the knee jerk reaction for me was like, damn, we gave up a lot. But in the grand scheme of things, if Boz can be a solid SP3 for us and give us 170, 180 innings and a sub 3 ERA and go deep into games, I think this is a fine move. I really do. I think that the ceiling is still there for Shane Boz if he can remain healthy.
Yeah. And I'm excited to kind of see what Drew can do with him, Drew French. Obviously we saw last year the starting rotation wasn't the greatest in the world, but he seemed to he at least got Charlie Morton to a point eventually where he was contributing really well towards the end of that stretch there before they traded him. And but we just, there's something about Drew French. It's that bullpen guy they pull off the streets, and all of a sudden, like they figure out a way to get like 10 to 15 to 20 really solid innings out of these guys, and then they know when it's time to pull the plug before it's too late. I don't know how he does it, because obviously a lot of other pitching coaches haven't been able to figure out some of these guys over the years, but getting him and Shane Boz like a good couple weeks together before it really starts to matter, I think might do him really good. Not that, obviously Tampa knows what they're freaking doing. But something about Drew just always seems to just tweak just something, just enough to get these guys effective. And I'm kind of excited to see what he does there. But let's talk a little bit of fantasy here. Obviously we know Gunnar Henderson's the guy, right? He's the guy on the Orioles. But if there was a guy on the Orioles that you think could help you win a fantasy championship, who would it be?
It's a good question. I'm really high on Kyle Bradish. I know we talked about him before. And I think if you play fantasy baseball too, a lot of guys will be going after, and rightfully so, a Skeens, a Tarek Skubal, Garrett Crochet, those types of folks. But, and I'm certainly looking to get a higher end ace on my staff, but, I really do think Kyle Bradish is a guy that you can get later in drafts and can really produce. Same thing with Trevor Rogers. I think both of those guys are going to be people you can add to your roster and get solid seasons out of both of them. But another guy that I like too, just a little bit of a deeper pull here, is Beavers. I think this is a guy too that a lot of people are sleeping on. I know that's a little bit of a log jam in the outfield between Beavers and Tyler O'Neill and brain farting here.
Taylor Ward,
Hauser, yeah, and there's a lot of guys that are going to be competing for, right? So I really do like Beavers too. Now I get you're going to get some growing pains with a rookie, or early on in the season too. But at the same time too, this is a guy that can easily go 2020.
Yeah.
Um, um, no doubt in my mind. And depending on where he slots in the lineup, that's another thing too. But and then Adley Rushman is another guy. I don't think we've tapped into Adley fully yet. I had a disappointing year last year. And a lot of people are getting impatient with him, but I still think the best is yet to come for Adley if he can continue to stay healthy. But interested to hear your thoughts on that too with Rushman, because I think that's been a talking point for a lot of O's fans.
I mean, look, he's been on a year and a half, almost 2 years of a downward trend. I wouldn't call him horrible, but I mean they've been downward trends, and injuries have played a part in that. I do think coaching played a part in that too, obviously because they all got fired. So I'm interested to kind of see. He's probably the biggest one behind Gunnar this year that I look to make a jump, so to say.
Yeah.
And I think he's still capable of doing it. There's still that 1-1 player in there somewhere. Yes, he is getting a little bit older, but we're coming up on contract time now, and this is kind of where it really starts to matter. And these kind of guys, they figure it out. I mean, you saw Santander, same thing. He was a respectable ball player, and then contract year, he freaking went off on fire. Now, you still have a whole nother season of Adley before that happens. But I think, with the injuries and whatnot, I think he's putting the work in at this point. You're getting a new coach with Joe Singley. You got Hank Conger, who's, was a big league catcher. You got Craig Alvarez, who's a catching guy too. So I think they get his defense back to where it was. I think Dustin Lin and Donnie Ecker are probably going to get the bat to where it should be. I think we're going to probably see that dip and dive and fall to that back knee trying to hit a home run swing is probably going to be gone. I think the best from Adley is when he uses the entire field. Personally,
100%. Yeah.
But we'll see. I did see a comment here, and I wanted to get your opinion on it. Let me fix that. What are we doing in center field? What do you think?
I'm not sure. Because we have a lot of left fielders and right fielders, right? Like,
right.
That's the thing. Taylor Ward was another guy left off, right? I'm not sure where they're going to put Beavers at yet. If I had to guess, I probably would slot him in center field. But yeah, I mean, and the other thing is too, is like, where does Tyler O'Neill fit into all of this? It's going to be interesting to see how they align. And I'm sure they'll probably mix and match with a lot of guys as well. What do you think?
I think they're pretty comfortable with Cowser, to be honest with you. He's a guy that, last year the end of 24? Yeah, the end of 24, we got that bad hit, broke his hand or thumb or whatever he broke. I think that it looked horrible. Coming from a guy who's been in that position, even as a catcher, it's a bad spot. You're looking for a ball, and especially a guy like, I forget who he was going against, but you're looking for a ball coming out of a certain slot. And with both his pitches come out of the same slot, you're in no man's land there. You thinking it's going to be a slider because that's what you chase the most, and it wasn't, and it had to be a two-seam that ran up in him, and it snapped it. So he was a guy who didn't really have a fully healthy offseason last year, and then he comes in, obviously, he's healthy, and then he's, second, third game, he slides into first base and breaks another part of his hand or something. And then we found out, like, really, into this offseason or maybe late last year, that they allowed him to play with broken ribs for several weeks. Like, you're talking about a guy that just really wasn't healthy whatsoever. Now, that doesn't excuse the way that he kind of reacted to some off-speed pitches, change-ups, whatnot. He looked kind of silly sometimes. But I think with the newer hitting coaches and whatnot, I think they're going to work on some, and not just him, but multiple guys kind of pick up that slider and whatnot.
I think that the thing with Cowser and something he's going to have to work on to stay in the lineup is his splits against lefties. He did not fare well against lefties last year, and that's why I kind of left him off. Is I'm sure there'll be times where they're going to have guys, right-handers on the bump, and I agree with you. I think they feel confident with him, but it's going to be really hard to leave him in there if he's hitting sub 100 against lefties. And then the other thing with it is it's not just him, right? Like, I know you'll agree with me on this. I think a lot of folks had high expectations for that offense, even without a guy like Pete Alonso, right? Heading into this season or last season. And we just never kind of really put games together in terms of just hitting the baseball, right? So We never got hot, and I think that's
Yeah.
something that's great with bringing in a guy like Pete Alonso and hopefully a healthier Tyler O'Neill, some veteran guys in here that can help out the young guys. But at some point, this is going to all start clicking, right? Like we got.
Mm.
I don't want to throw the injury bug in there because everybody deals with injuries, right? Like
Yeah.
Gunnar was playing hurt, Jordan Westberg was hurt, right? Adley was hurt, Kowser was hurt, so the injury bug obviously didn't do us any favors. But at the same time, too, we got to learn how to hit off speed. And we got to learn how to hit lefties. And if we can do that, I think this takes us to another level there in that division, and really for the pennant. So
I agree. Now I'm going to give you two names here. You tell me who you think is going to have a better fantasy season and or season for the Orioles. Westberg and Holiday.
Ooh, man, that's tough. I've always been a Jordan Westberg guy, so I'm trying to leave my bias at the door here, but I've said this even when he was hurt, and I can't remember who in the broadcast said it, but I think it was Palmer. But Jordan Westberg is the heartbeat of the O's. It's a different lineup when he's in there. He's a great gap hitter, guy that you can slot in anywhere between 2 and 6 and feel comfortable with it. I think this is a guy that can again give you a solid output, right? I like Holiday as well. I think Jackson Holiday is a better in real life player than he is fantasy. I'm not saying that he's bad. I'm saying he just does a lot of things average. I don't know if there's anything that's going to be like he's going to go 30-30 or anything like that. I think he's still young. He still needs to tap into some of that as well. Great player. I have, high hopes for him this year, but if I had to pick one right now going into this season, I'd slot Jordan Westberg in there.
It's probably better to go with the guys a little older and, played college ball and been in the big leagues a little bit longer. I don't blame you there. Here's my pick for a fantasy guy that I think could help, and I want your opinion on it, but Ryan Helsley, right? If they get him back to a good Ryan Helsley again, like how big of a fantasy impact could he be?
Big. Obviously I would love to have Felix Bautista in there, which was another guy, speaking of last year, that just could not get right. And I feel for him too, because we're talking about arguably the most dominant reliever in baseball when healthy, in my opinion. And again, I'm not just saying that because I'm an O's fan. Just go back and look at the season before he got hurt. He was lights out. But Ryan Helsley, I think, was a phenomenal move for the O's. Didn't fare too well when he left St. Louis and went over to the Mets last year. And again, I think there's something to be said for that too, because he's used to being in the closer role. He obviously wasn't taking over Edwin Diaz in that position, so maybe a little bit of a learning curve for him to kind of be the setup guy, the 7th, 8th guy, as opposed to the closer. So, noting that this is his job now in Baltimore. Again, Baltimore is going to be one of those teams that are going to be right there in the thick of things. And I think Helsley's a 30 save reliever at minimum, and a guy that's going much later in drafts that I think you can get in on. Again, he's going to have to work on just the same things that we talked about with Shane Baz. Location for him, and it kind of fell off towards the end of the year, but. I think this is a guy, too, that really solidifies the back end of our bullpen, which we struggled with last year with Bautista hurt. So if Ryan Helsley can come in and be the Ryan Helsley of old, of how he was with St. Louis, I love this move 100%. But it brings me to, since we're talking about the bullpen, that's been something I think that hasn't been getting talked about enough. And I saw a couple of your tweets as well. I think you and I are on the same page with just middle relief and long relief really as well, too. I'd love to see them go out and get a guy like Michael Kopech.
Yes.
And
Yes.
The reason why I'm saying that, since we're talking about closers, is if you remember, Michael Kopech played extremely well in the closer role, both for Chicago and for the Dodgers.
Yep.
So if something were to happen to Ryan Helsley, knock on wood, or he falters in that role, I think Michael Kopech's an easy guy that you can slot back into the 9th. And triple-digit fastball, has closer stuff, and again, a highly touted prospect coming up with Chicago. I would love to go out and get a guy like that.
Me too, but part of me thinks that they're. I hate to even admit it. I think they're content in the bullpen, and I don't think they should be. But I somewhat understand if they are, because if you think about it, like you went back and you acquired Kittredge, and I think Kittredge grates for this bullpen. I think he slots very well in that 6th or 7th inning role. I think they want to try Tyler Wells probably in the 8th, and I think he's a bulldog. He probably can handle it. But I also a dark horse here is Cade Stroud, and I mean he pitched very, very well last year, and he's going to only get better. Do they have room to bring in Kopech? Because I think eventually you could see Stroud, if they brought in Kopech, Stroud, Kopech, Helsley, which I think is freaking dominant. But then you got to find room for a lefty because you really don't want Keegan Aiken to come in there in a spot situation in the 7th or 8th. Like, I just don't know if they have the room. Obviously, me personally, I think Aiken is upgradable. And I hate to be too negative on him because he's been around for a while and he's proved some quality innings from time to time. But would I prefer somebody like Garrett Cleavinger if they swung a trade? Yeah. Jojo Romero, probably. I think he's probably better than Aiken. But I mean, I feel like they're trying to leave room for some of these guys. Because you got Levi Wells coming up, you got Trey Gibson coming up, Blake Money's not far off. They got other guys in AAA that are really close, and it's just like I honestly think it's because they knew they burnt themselves in 24 when they had no one in the bullpen with an option, and now it's like, well, maybe we should keep 2 guys with an option, and because listen, I don't think Dietrich Enns is better than Jojo Romero, and I don't think that Rico Garcia is better than Michael Kopech. Like, what are we doing here? But that's just me.
I agree with you, and well said. I'd be interested to know what they're going to do with guys if they were to add another pitcher like Gallen or Framber, or I've even heard rumors that they are potentially interested in Lucas Giolito, and that's going to move guys down in this rotation, right? Like I like Dean Kramer. I think he's a solid number 5 in this rotation too. But I also like Tyler Wells, and I think this is a strong possibility. And I think I've been on record of saying this for years now, fantasy or not. I think you're going to see more teams start going with 6-man rotations to keep guys fresh, to keep guys healthy, especially with some of the guys that we have in our rotation currently right now, with Bradish, with Shane Baz, who have dealt with injuries recently. And you want to keep these guys fresh, especially if you are making a push at the playoffs, even in winning the division, but also deeper into the playoffs as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if they use guys like Tyler Wells as a long reliever or something along those lines. I think what killed us last year, and rightfully so, because our starting rotation was so bad, we had teams were getting into our bullpen extremely quick. And we're relying on these guys to start pitching in the 5th and the 6th and whatever. And that's something for a starter to do, not your bullpen. Right. So that's why I say, like, I agree with you. I'd rather have a guy like Michael Kopech or a Jojo Romero or somebody along those lines that is going to be rock solid towards the latter end of games. And come playoff time, that's what you need, right? You need guys who are going to be able to protect 1-2 run leads in the 7th, 8th, and 9th. And nobody's going to be perfect in this bullpen. I mean, I hope that's the point, or that we get there. But you got to be able to mix and match and be able to throw guys in. If Ryan Helsley's going on back to back, can you have somebody come in and feel confident that you can close that game out? And I think Michael Kopech slots perfectly into this bullpen. I really do. He can be a 1B to a 1A with closing out games, or even getting into the 8th there for us.
I completely agree. I just see it. I everything just seems like it's falling in line for them to kind of, and they've made this mistake prior. Is it just, I get it. You want to give your guys a chance, but like at some point you got to get the guy that's been there, done that kind of thing. But I think Stroud has obviously earned that right. Tyler Wells, we've seen pitch very well in his career to, I feel like, earn that right over Dietrich Enns and Rico Garcia and whatnot. But the big thing for me is velocity, and Kopech brings that.
100%.
Garcia obviously throws harder than most of the other guys, but I mean, I would say probably 3rd, 4th consecutive year now without Felix, like, you don't have velocity in that bullpen. I mean, yeah, sure, you got Helsley again, but it'd be not. I mean, when you turn on October baseball, man, like, you don't even know these guys' name, and they come out here throwing 101. Like, I mean, if you were a fan of the team, you'd probably know their name, but like, as a fan just watching October baseball, like, these are just no-name dudes coming out throwing 101 miles an hour, 100, 102. Like, you don't know who they are. Some are even rookies. Like, it's crazy. And then when you watch the Orioles pitch, it's like, oh, here's 94, 95. Oh, cool, they struck you out 96. Like, that stuff doesn't play in October. It might. I mean, obviously a good located fastball plays, but it's annoying. It just that they keep kind of following the same suit a little bit with the bullpen, because to me, I get ripped sometimes for saying it. I think bullpen is more important than a starting pitching nowadays.
I agree with you. Look at the trade deadline last year. Look at all the guys that got moved with bullpen. Everyone scrambles for bullpen help.
Yeah.
Look at the Yankees and the Mets last year. Those guys traded for actual closers just to be in their bullpen, not to be their closer, to be in the bullpen, the 7th and the 8th guys, right? So, and Helsley being that guy too. He didn't even pitch. He got a couple chances in the 9th, but he was a 7th, 8th inning guy. So, I agree with you. I think when it comes down to it, protecting leads, especially tight in October baseball, you need guys that you can count on to protect, right? So, like I said, I don't think hitting is going to be an issue, but what we've learned over the years, especially with this young nucleus of players that we've gotten with Baltimore, is if we are not hitting the long ball, if we're not reliant on scoring runs, that means our pitching has to be that much better, right?
Right.
And if we have elevated that offense and these guys take the next step, maybe we don't have that problem. But at the same time, too, guys aren't going to go into every game, especially in October, hitting the long ball, and we got to be able to pitch our way to wins and not hit our way to wins, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to be able to win the later innings of games and allow our offense to score some more runs.
I've talked about it a couple times, and I think so many people get used to Baltimore, hitting the long ball, and we all know when it gets humid out, the ball flies, and it gets stupid hot in Baltimore, especially in the middle of that city there. The ball, it gets so dense and humid in there, and the ball flies out. And then, like we saw with Jordan Westburg in that Rangers series, or it was Kansas City, crushed that ball to left field. Didn't go anywhere. It was a standing out, right? When the humidity drops in Baltimore, it seems like they didn't change their swing for years. Like they just thought they could keep pounding it out. It doesn't work that way. Yeah, you'll hit some, but you can't be relying on it. And what I'm hoping is this new coaching staff takes that into consideration and fixes some of that. But we'll see.
And I think that's where Pete Alonso slots in for me as well. Like everyone thinks of Pete Alonso as a big home run hitter, which he is, right? Like that's a great guy that you're slotting in the cleanup spot. I love the signing of Pete Alonso. I'm a huge fan. But this guy also I think he was the league leader in doubles last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So having a guy that you can drive in runs and not a guy who's going to be hitting, 220, 210. I know Pete has a couple of those 220 years under his belt, but when he's on, he's a 250, 260 hitter. And that's perfect for a guy who's hitting 40 home runs for you. Right. Now he's going to have to poke one out of there, especially with left field out there in Camden Yards. But, he's got the power to do it. I'm not concerned about that at all. And actually, there was a great tweet. I can't remember who put it out. He actually would have hit more home runs last year if he played for Baltimore. With his home runs to left field, right? So
I think it was 9 more.
Yeah, I'm not concerned with that at all. I like a guy that can not be so reliant on hitting home runs and be able to drive gaps. And I think that's where Pete comes in terms of helping these young guys out, like a Gunnar, like a Jordan Westburg, like a Samuel Basayo, right? We want to have these guys be able to just put the ball in play and drive gaps. And if it goes out, great. But at the same time, too, in the Texas series that we saw a couple years ago, we couldn't hit our way out of a wet paper bag. We got to be able to put the ball in play and start knocking some hits in here.
So I'm looking at last year with runners in scoring position. Obviously, like we saw the numbers, right? He had 87 RBIs, hit 309 runners in scoring position, but he hit 30% of his balls the opposite field.
Yep.
30% up the middle and 40% pool side. So obviously you're tailored to the pool side, but splitting a 30-30 with center and away to me is great. I mean, especially when you had a 43% hard hit rate last year with runners in scoring position, like that's freaking fantastic. But like you said, I mean, he's not afraid to just let a ball travel and just shoot a ball down in the right field line. I mean, especially in Camden Yards, but you get a ball down in that corner down there with that little garage door and whatnot, and let it kick around a little bit. Like instead of a guy, maybe stopping at third from first, now he's getting sent here, right? Because it's just a little different down there, and little things like that matter, especially in October. And it kind of leads us into the next question. Like, what are your thoughts on Taylor Ward?
I love Taylor Ward. If you've been following me, if you followed me during the fantasy baseball season, I was talking Taylor Ward in the beginning of the season when he was with the Angels. So the fact that we got him and Pete Alonso, which two of my favorite fantasy guys, again, another thumper. He's not a guy like Pete Alonso, though. He's not a guy that looks big, doesn't look like he can hit the ball out, but he reminds me a lot like this kind of I made this comparison when we traded Grayson for him. We just got another version of Tyler O'Neill. Their numbers are very similar, right?
Yeah.
Like low batting average, big thumpers. But Taylor Ward for me is a guy that can play every day. I love his swing. I love how simple it is. I would love to obviously see him get his batting average up a little bit. And like you said, maybe this is where some of our new regime come in and kind of help him out with that. But again, we got a lot of power in this offense, and I think it's being not overlooked, but slept on in a way. If everybody can play to their potential, if Gunnar comes back, if Jordan Westbrook stays healthy, right? If Pete Alonso continues to play the way he's playing, Taylor Ward, Basayo, right? There's Dylan Beavers. There's a lot of guys in this offense, top to bottom, that can hit. Adley Rutschman. So, do I like the move? Yes. I'm confused though on what we do, and that's just kind of what I'm waiting on. I'm keep looking at my watch, like maybe O'Neill's on the move. Because it just seems kind of redundant to have two guys that are like that. Maybe they move him for an arm or something along those lines. I don't know. But we got a crowded outfield, and we still got a guy like Heston Kjerstad as well that's sitting in the minor in the minors that you want to see him develop as well. So I like that. I like the Taylor Ward signing. I really do. Like I said, if he can start walking more and getting that batting average up, I think this is a guy that's going to have a huge year for us.
I think having the protection in this lineup, other than an injured Mike Trout and a swing for the fence or nothing Joe Adell, I think that's going to help him a lot too. A good question brought up in the comments here. Are there any players who haven't debuted yet for fantasy relevant for this year?
For the O's?
Yeah.
It depends. See, this is the thing, right? Like that haven't debuted yet. That's a good question. First one that comes to mind is Enrique Bradfield, but like, where do these guys play? Because we have so many great young players in the minors. And it's a matter of where all these guys end up playing at, right?
Right.
We just don't have enough room for all of them, right? I mentioned Heston Kjerstad. He's gotten a cup of coffee a couple times there with us, but to answer your question in short, if you're talking about guys that maybe haven't been quote unquote relevant as yet, like Samuel Basayo and Dylan Beavers, I think those are the two guys fantasy wise that could take a big step for us this year. Even though they played for us last year. Vance Honeycutt was another guy that I was big on when we drafted him. But again, another outfielder, not sure where he plays. I don't think there's many guys in the minors hitting wise that you're going to see up in the majors this year, unless we have some injuries, knock on wood, that are going to be fantasy relevant. So just my personal opinion, but same thing with starting pitching. That's another one as well. Like, could we see some guys come up? The guy we got from San Diego, the lefty, I think that's a guy that we could see up maybe this year. But outside of
Bateman
that,
Bateman.
Yeah, Boston Bateman, I think is his name. I like him a lot too. I think it was a great move, great get for us.
Neighbors too, right?
Yeah,
a lot of people
but
like
not
Neighbors.
A lot of guys relevant. Yeah, yep. Not a lot of fantasy relevant guys that aren't already up or that we've seen. So, unless you.
I got a good question here for you, especially pertaining to young guys here. Connor Griffin or Kevin McConnell? Who would you draft and why?
Oh man, that's a good question. Well, I've gotten a lot of who the best prospect right now, or who's the number one prospect in baseball right now, and I believe it's Connor Griffin for Pittsburgh, and Kevin McConaughey down in Detroit. Kevin McConaughey, I've seen comparisons that he's a bigger Bobby Witt Jr.,
which is crazy because they're not even close in body size,
right? So that to get that kind of praise says enough right there. Kevin McConaughey, I've seen comparisons to Chase Utley. Both are great hitters. I don't think you can make an argument of if you said to me, hey, I think McConaughey's number one or Griffin's number one, I wouldn't bat an eye at that. I think both of them are kind of 1A, 1B. Fantasy wise though, I think it's Connor Griffin. If even if you play in redraft, meaning you draft a different team every year, I'd be looking to leave every draft with him. Not saying McConaughey's not another guy that you can get to, but with both of these guys, especially with Pittsburgh, they like to start the clock late with these guys because they know they're not re-signing them, right? So that's the frustration with owning anybody with Pittsburgh. Kevin McConaughey could win the job out of spring training though, but you still got guys like Javi Baez lurking there too. And maybe they don't want to rush him. I'm really pulling for both of them. I hope they're going to be great for baseball. They're going to be two studs, superstars for years to come. Just a matter of where they play. So,
I had another question here in the chat. For fantasy, who would you rather have, Scooball or Skeens?
Scooble. No, sorry, Skeens. I think don't get me wrong, I love Scooble too. Skeens is a generational talent. And same thing with Scooble, but for me, fantasy wise, and Jackson U9F, anybody who knows me with fantasy, I'm not drafting either one of these guys because they cost first round draft picks. For me, especially with fantasy and format obviously matters as well. But if you look at some of these guys that we've seen over the years, a lot of these guys get hurt and have Tommy John, right? The guys that end up throwing really hard, really high spin rates. And God, I hope nothing happens to either one of them because they're so great for the game. I'm huge fans of both of them. But I'll never own a guy like Scooble or Skeens on my team, not because I don't think that they're going to get hurt. It's more so the fact is their likelihood of getting hurt is higher than, say, you're getting a surefire Jose Ramirez or, Kyle Tucker or some of the other guys that are going in the first round hitting wise. Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, those guys. I'm going to be drafting those guys every single day of the week because they're going to be on the field a lot more. You get a starting pitcher that pitches once every 5 days.
Exactly.
So
I had to laugh because my dog's back here on the couch and he rolled over and turned the PlayStation on.
Oh, interesting. There you go. He wants to play
somebody. So Jackson, a different Jackson here, asked, "What about JJ Weatherholt? Should also be in that mix?" And funny story is JJ Weatherholt is from Baltimore, so let's hear your thoughts on that one.
I love that one. And Colt Emerson for Seattle, two other guys that aren't getting talked about enough either. So love JJ Weatherholt, West Virginia kid. I believe he went to West Virginia, if I'm not mistaken. And a lot of people were buzzing on Mason Wynn last year. It's a kind of a running joke on my Twitter feed. I'm not a big Mason Wynn guy. I don't know why everybody had such a huge fascination with him in fantasy. Dude just can't hit.
Because he throws 103 across the diamond. That's it.
Yeah. I mean, but that bat looks like a tree trunk in his hands.
Yeah.
His hard hit rate is terrible. And he strikes out a lot too. So, I know JJ Weatherholt I believe they're probably going to slot him at third, if I'm not mistaken, now that Nolan Arenado is gone. And they'll leave Mason Wynn there at short. But I love JJ Weatherholt. I don't think enough is getting talked about him. I really hope he's a guy that could probably come out of the gate and play really well just because he doesn't have the pressure of being that number one guy, right?
Exactly.
And especially with a team like St. Louis, which nobody's really expecting much from, I like him a lot, especially playing third base.
They annoy me.
Yeah.
I've got a really good friend of mine at work that listens here, and he's a big Cardinals fan, and we talk about it all the time. Dude, they had the fourth richest owner in baseball, and they're trying to keep their payment this year under $75 million. Like, it's embarrassing. It's absolutely embarrassing. Now, granted, they do have some talent that they're trying to make room for, which, JJ Weatherholt, you had to move on Nolan to do this, but you could have spent a little bit of money. That stuff drives me nuts. And same thing with Scooball. Like, it's not like Detroit has a cheap owner. Like, the dude's worth like $6 billion. Like, he's got money. I think he's like the fourth richest owner in baseball. Come on, man. It's bad for baseball at that point.
It is, and I totally agree with you. Everyone always gets on the Dodgers with making all these moves. Nobody's preventing any of these owners from not signing these guys and throwing money at them as well. Everybody who owns a baseball team is a billionaire, right? They
traded Mookie Betts to them.
Right.
Like, you didn't have to do that. That wasn't their fault.
Right. But even they're signing all these guys, and nobody's preventing you from doing the exact same strategy that they're doing. It's not a Dodger problem. It's a greedy owner problem in baseball, right?
Yeah.
You look at teams like Pittsburgh, too. And for us, when we had Angelos in office, we were another team that just didn't spend any money.
Yeah,
and
couldn't afford
spend
Manny
it in the right places. Yep.
If they would have paid Manny Machado, I don't even think it mattered. You could have handed him a blank check. You could give him $500 million back then. I think they would have made up for it with the fan attendance in Baltimore. Now, yes, 100%. They were on the team of verge of trying to tank and whatnot. I don't think it matters. People would have still came to the ballpark to see Manny Machado. and it would have
100%.
set the Orioles up much, much better than where they were.
And he was a face of the franchise guy. I was really disappointed to see him go. And this is my whole thing with guys like Skubal even now going into a contract year, because next year he's a free agent, right?
Right.
And the same thing we did with Machado. If we didn't have any intention on re-signing him, we should have dealt him way before and gotten somebody who can restock our farm, a slew of players to restock our farm system. The Nationals did a great job of that when they traded Soto, right? Trey Turner, same thing. They had no plans on signing him. They got rid of him before their contract years come up. They get a slew of prospects back. We should have done that with Machado. And then we gave all that money to Chris Davis, which I believe we're still paying as well. So I would have much rather given that money to Manny Mo.
Yeah. I mean, is what it is. Another question here. Opinion on Pablo Lopez.
Yeah, pitcher for the Twins. Dealt with some injuries last year. I'm very reluctant to draft a guy like Pablo Lopez this year because he's coming off injury for one, but two, if you remember during the trade deadline, they got rid of a bunch of guys as well. Which, again, that division is not extremely difficult, and the Twins always find a way to kind of be relevant. But Pablo Lopez is a good 200 strikeout guy. He's not even a year removed from that. What wins are going to be hard to come by. Right, for him. So coming off injury, just a little bit of a risky pick, but if he can give us, a fraction of what he did the year before and give us anywhere between 180, 170 strikeouts, I think that's something that's worth shooting for. Pablo Lopez, I believe, was a top 10 starting pitcher going into this time last year. So that people were drafting him at. So another guy like in Minnesota, Walker Jenkins. I think that's another guy. I don't know when we see him with Minnesota, but another one of the best outfield prospects in baseball.
Yeah. Now I know you're a guy like me, and you like to wake up early, so I don't want to hold you out too long. But go ahead and give yourself kind of like toot your horn a little bit. Tell us about this is some of the socials here. Guys can go follow Mike on. He's a worthy follow if you love baseball. But go ahead and talk about some of your stuff here, Mike.
Yeah. So you guys can follow me on Twitter or X at _Mike VA. I'm also one of the co-hosts on the Palazzo Podcast Fantasy Baseball Show. So that is our YouTube channel. Would greatly love a follow and a subscribe onto the YouTube channel there for Palazzo. We talk everything baseball. It's not just fantasy, right? We love putting some entertainment spins in there as well. We talk movies. We tell jokes. It's not as dry as talking about numbers and spin rates and things like that, right? We like to talk, literally everything under the sun. And we got Michael Govier, who founded the Palazzo Podcast, has a soundboard and makes it fun. So really would love the follow in this and the subscribe if you guys are interested. If you play fantasy baseball, obviously this is the place to be. So getting ready for draft season, getting guys on to kind of talk about strategy as well. So if you guys are on Twitter or YouTube, give us a follow.
Definitely. We got one last question for you here.
Yeah.
Best late draft picks for sleeper relievers.
Good question. Now, if we're talking about relievers, could be like the potential closer, like closer in the wings kind of thing, or are we talking about guys like if we're playing like in a holds league? That's another ingredient to fantasy baseball, not just closers,
with holds,
right?
Because it's a different one.
Yeah, and a guy I've always been high on, even though his ERA wasn't really great last year, Jeremiah Estrada for San Diego. I think he's a guy that can easily slot in as the closer if something were to happen to Mason Miller. And Mason Miller's pitching in the World Baseball Classic this year. There's just too much data, and same thing, throws really hard. Hope he doesn't get hurt, but Jeremiah Estrada is the next guy that will slot into that role. A lot of people will tell you Jason Adam, which very well could be, but Jason Adam for me slots more in the 8th. So for a holds guy, I like him as well too. Lucas Urseg for Kansas City, just another guy that's going to do a lot of holds. Yeah, I love him too. He tore us up as well. Another guy that I like, Lucas Urseg, a guy that can slot in if something were to happen to Carlos Estevez as the closer, can slot in there. Trying to think of that. Another one, Robert Suarez was the former closer for San Diego, now with Atlanta. I believe they're going to give the ball to Iglesias as the first shot there, but another guy that's probably going to rack up a lot of holds for Atlanta as well. And you get this is the thing too. Like a lot of guys will go after, if you're just playing a saves only league, like guys like Urseg, Jeremiah Estrada, Robert Suarez. If you're just playing saves only, these guys are worth rostering simply because of the fact is they strike out a lot of people as well, right? So if you're playing a K per 9 league, or if you play and got obviously high strikeout points or whatever it may be, these guys are worth owning simply because that's what they do. They strike out guys in the 8th inning and they get the occasional 9th. And that's why I like rostering them too, is because if something were to happen to the closer, you got yourself a bona fide stud that's going to be coming in and getting you saves. So,
yep.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. I definitely appreciate the chat. I mean, it's been a little while since I've been on here too, so it's always good to come on and talk some ball. I appreciate you joining us. We
got to do it more often too. I love talking O's, especially as the season goes on. Expecting big things from my guys this year. So, are you in the Baltimore area?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm like 25 minutes south of the stadium.
There you go. We're gonna have to sync up, man. Grab a beer and hit some games up, man. So
definitely.
I've had, I recently had my second child in August. When my daughter was born. But
man.
Thanks, man. And my son is now 4, and huge O's fan himself. So we'll have to get out there and catch some games together.
Yeah, I got a 7, 5, and 3-year-old.
God bless you.
Yes. It's been a long week with them snowed in. Let's just say that.
Same. And we're battling with head colds too. My daughter's been sick for the past week, so it's been a lack of sleep, to say the least.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, get some sleep. I know you're an early guy just like me, so appreciate you hopping on. Appreciate all the viewers and whatnot, guys asking questions. But we'll catch you guys later.
Thanks, brother.